and welcome to the BigFix briefing room. It's June 2025. My name is Michelle McGough, and I'm here with Joe Saylor, and we're going to take you through the monthly patchwork that you have on your plate. So, Joe, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, sure thing. So starting with the just Microsoft walkthrough here, we've got a total of 66 vulnerabilities for this month. Kind of a light number relative to the kind of huge things we've seen lately. There are only 2 0 days in this batch, which is surprisingly light. We've had many, many more than that usually. Only one of them are actively exploited, and we have some recommended acceleration for your patching for Outlook, for domain controllers, and for Sharepoint this month.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I agree. That does look like a lighter month. Yeah, are you going to go straight into, oh yeah, the 0 days? Okay.
Yeah, so first off, the actively exploited 0 day, this one has example code out there. It's being used. This one took me a double take to really kind of grok all the nuances of it. On the surface, it doesn't look terrible. It requires a victim to be tricked into clicking on a malicious link. So, those in Windows are a dime a dozen. There's a million different ways you can trick a user into clicking on a link and do something bad on their system. The nuance here kind of comes from what the application is that's vulnerable. So the distributed authoring and versioning component is how stuff like Dropbox or SharePoint allows you to dynamically share files with users through the browser. So this is super common stuff, right? Like, Michelle, how many times have I shared with you a SharePoint link to like this PowerPoint presentation?
Yeah.
Right?
All the time. Yeah, and I even remember going back years when we worked on packaging, I would pick up I would call it web dev, right? I would see it in setup captures, and I'd be trimming that stuff out. I mean, it's been, I think, a core component of the OS and browser for a long time.
Yeah, and so when I was thinking through kind of the ramifications of that, those links, like a link to a SharePoint file or to a Dropbox file, is terribly complicated. They're like thousands of characters long. My sad human brain can't really parse them that well. And they look really legitimate because we're used to shooting these files, these links back to each other all the time. And so you have this air of legitimacy for links that look like web dev content already. We're kind of like, we're a little bit trained to think they're a little bit safe.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're right. You're right. So are you getting at, like, this is an 8.8. They do have to trick the victim into clicking on a malicious link, but what you're saying is that user really going to be able to discern whether that link is malicious or not?
Yeah, exactly. It's anything I consider threatening is something that circumvents our natural protections, all the things we've trained our users to do. And I think this has a lot of that juice to it. Like, I think there's a lot of circumvention of what we think of as a malicious link, especially if you were to combine this with some like domain adjacency stuff, right? Like, if I saw from you or from anybody a link that looked like a SharePoint link, but the domain was hcl.soft.where.com, just like an extra dot in there.
Right.
We're just like one character away from being an actual legitimate link. So this really aids the attackers in kind of tricking you into what a malicious link is.
So with that said, do you feel like the severity score should be higher?
I mean, 8.8 is already really high, but it just, because of the context, it's more scary, more effective than it looks.
Okay, fair. What does the solution look like? Is it a pretty straightforward?
Yeah, it's just a patch. So this affects the Internet Explorer and Edge components in Windows. So I believe that this patch isn't included for IE in the standard security only update. So make sure you're applying those Internet Explorer updates as well, even if maybe you're not using the Internet Explorer components actively.
Yeah, good find, Joe. Thank you. What's next? Oh,
All right,
just
so
a plain old regular 0 day.
regular 0 day, just announced but didn't have a fix available. This one is not quite as threatening. It requires an attacker to be authenticated already. So once someone has any sort of login, to your network, there's again probably about 1,000 different things they can do in Windows and in domain controllers and that sort of thing to elevate from there. This is just another one of those vectors. So this is like a post-compromise escalation kind of vector. Not particularly threatening. There's no extra factors here that I think make it worse than it seems.
Okay, thanks, Joe. All right, let's go to the next one. Oh my. This one looks big, Joe.
This one's a little more nuclear than it looks. So, for sure, as the 8.8 rating, I don't agree with that at all. Like, this is way worse than it seems. It's called an elevation of privilege attack in the net logon module. It's listed as vulnerable on all Windows operating systems, but the way that the actual exploit is worded, it requires an attacker to send some, complex malicious code as a netlogon event to a domain controller. So the real vulnerability is on the domain controllers.
Okay. Okay. No user interaction, no authentication, elevation of privileges, and it's any unpatched DC.
Yes. Yeah. And as we've mentioned before, domain controllers are generally highly network available. Like that's their whole job, is to be visible on the network. And so hiding them away isn't really an option here. This is marked as something as high complexity to exploit, so there's some race conditions involved. So the attacker it's not like an automatic own of your domain controller, but given how available DCs are, they have the opportunity to try over and over again, right? So it seems like exploitation is more or less guaranteed if someone is on your network for any length of time with one of these unpatched domain controllers.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah. So, and it probably goes without saying, like, I think you should probably accelerate patching domain controllers this month.
Yeah.
Like, it's quite important.
For sure. Okay. And then a couple of criticals here.
Yeah, these are kind of in the standard vein. It's the same service, but one of them requires an attacker to already be authenticated, and then they can, exploit this over the network, or a user has to be tricked into clicking on a malicious link for the other version of this CVE. So both of those are kind of post-compromise actions. So not anything that would circumvent your, protections that you already have in place.
All right. Any more Microsoft? Oh, there's more.
There's always more.
This one, remote gateway, remote code execution. So same gateway vulnerability as every month. Have we seen this?
We've seen this every month. Yeah.
Every month?
Yeah, I actually had to change this slide a little bit because it was already in here from last month. I think we've seen this 4 times out of the last 6 months this year.
Wow.
Same service, not exactly the same vulnerability, but they're very similar. The shape of it is practically the same. I am actually running out of references to make on this one. Like I used my Groundhog's Day reference. We got Pinky in the Brain this month. So, when this happens next month, we'll see if I run out of memes or not to hit this with.
And to stay copyright legal, I like how you've just referenced it, but not actually included the image.
I can't. I've been told that I cannot use images. I'm very sad. So sad.
Thank you for being responsible. All right, and then at the bottom, you've got a relevance expression for folks to be able to look for the running service.
Yeah, and quick refresher on this one, it's a use after free vulnerability in the gateway service. Basically, a remote attacker can inject some stuff into their URL when they hit the server, the remote desktop gateway service, and then it will just execute whatever they did the next time that pointer comes around. So the relevance here detects where the remote desktop service gateway is, and then you can see if you have any exposure to it.
Okay, and if a customer were using BigFix remote control instead, and just keeping the Microsoft Remote Desktop locked down, they would be just fine, right?
Yeah, yeah, of course. And I don't want to denigrate anyone, but at this point, we've got a history of exploitation here, and like maybe get away from remote desktop if you're using it. Just any other service at this point.
Agree. Okay, thanks. What's next? Oh, no. The preview pane. That poor preview pane. If anybody still has that enabled, let this be the invitation to disable that.
Yeah, just more of the same. We've seen this 3 times this year already. It's been quite a bit more than usual, I think. Like this is just kind of accelerating, where in general it's an Office problem where if in Office you open a malicious document, then it can trigger some remote code execution. And of course, the problem is that the preview pane triggers it. So, if you open Outlook and it's at the top of your email, if a malicious email is all the way at the top, then it just kind of triggers it automatically, and it's like a 0-click exploit, which is just the worst. What a terrible situation.
But I see a 7. It's a high 7. Is that high enough?
Yeah, the problem is that they call these local execution because technically you have to open a file locally to trigger them, and so that really reduces the scored severity because you know
Okay.
it's marked as local, but the reality is the attacker sent the attack over the network through email. And then if it's in this situation where it's hit by the preview pane, then to me that's a true network attack, right? Because the user
Totally.
really didn't have to do anything. They had 0 things to do. So, to me that's a network vector. And that's why the severity is so much lower than it really probably should be.
Yeah, I agree with you. Thanks for highlighting this. I mean, I know you've been bringing it up many times, but anybody who's new to this work, yeah, this has been a pretty frequent problem. Okay,
Yeah.
what's next?
Uh, we got a pile of remote code execution exploits in SharePoint. They're all pretty similar. It's all very much like anybody with any sort of authentication can trigger code execution in the context of the SharePoint server, which is pretty gnarly because it's not just elevating privileges within SharePoint, which is bad, right? You don't want someone with admin privileges to your SharePoint and able to do stuff. But because it can execute code in the SharePoint context, it goes past your SharePoint server, right? So now we can do stuff on the local OS of the SharePoint server, not just within the SharePoint application. So these have kind of far-ranging consequences. Again, it's another one of those post vulnerability exploits where someone has to have already compromised your system. They have to have a login that's valid. But still, they're fairly nasty. So if anyone's still running local SharePoint instances, get those upgraded as soon as possible.
Okay, thanks, Joe. All right. Oh, the stories of the month. I can't wait to find out what you picked for us.
We just kind of got the one this month.
Okay.
I thought it would be a good time to talk about ClickFix. It's a strategy that's been around for a little while now. I think it really started coming to prominence, I don't know, 9, 10 months ago, maybe a year, something like that. And it's basically kind of an evolution of social engineering where a website or just some malicious link that a user has gone to has a dialogue that says, hey, your computer is infected, or hey, you need to fix something, and you click here to fix whatever my problem is, whatever I'm trying to trick you into thinking is a problem.
Yeah.
Part of the problem is that they're always disguised as something pretty legitimate looking, like whenever Chrome crashes you get that "aw snap, Chrome encountered a problem" dialogue. Well, they'll just look like that. It'll just say "aw snap, Chrome encountered a problem," and we'll have, hey, copy this, paste it into a window, hit enter, right? And that will be the how to fix it steps. And so it looks, fairly legitimate, and it's usually only a couple of hotkeys. The standard one is, hit Windows R, that opens the run dialog. Control V pastes in whatever is on your clipboard, which conveniently will already be there,
And then
and then you
enter
hit
it.
enter, and then it's over.
Oh, is it bad that I'm thinking about my parents right now? I shouldn't
For
laugh. This
sure.
can it could happen to anybody, but yeah.
One of the Discord communities that I was subscribed to had their entire server blown up because one of their administrators had things, and it led to a rat attack. And even better, on that Discord server, they then posted the same steps that the admin had to execute, and another like 50 or 60 people ran through the same thing, right? And everybody, like, it was just a wave of compromise, and I got to see it all happen in real time. It was not great, not a fun time.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Okay. And thank you for the aging meme. You know, I appreciate old memes. So
I
yeah,
figured you
when get install all your base are belong to us. Is that what
yeah.
we're pasting in?
I don't think that will do anything for you, no.
No, I don't think
I
so.
really hope it doesn't, honestly. Like, I think that I could be open to legal action if that actually does anything.
I don't
Uh,
think it does. But no, this thanks for highlighting this because yeah, it could happen to anybody if it looks legitimate enough, you know, especially at work when we're all, I think most people are used to working at a pretty fast pace and sort of responding when something goes wrong rather than, you know, taking a breath and really looking into the situation. So I don't even know how CISOs or CIOs would even address this in training. I mean, I think it's really difficult to educate because you can't say it always looks exactly like this or it's always going to happen in this situation. So you guys have your work cut out for you. Awareness is important.
One of the other interesting things I think about this whole ClickFix thing is that it's um, attackers aren't in this case attacking any vulnerabilities. They're not hitting a CVE, right? Like, they're not dependent on the software itself being vulnerable to stuff. These are tools. It's usually a PowerShell script, but it could be anything. PowerShell is just especially ripe for it because you can do a lot in like one line of
Yeah,
PowerShell.
absolutely.
And it's not like blocked. You can't just block all of PowerShell. Like, it's an integral part of the operating system at this point. And so it's just these, like, they always use these locally available tools, like these found applications, and just exploit them for their own gain, right? And it's stuff that you can't like, there's no antivirus software, right, that's gonna
Right.
protect you against explicitly running a PowerShell command.
Yeah, and you're bumping up to the edge of security and productivity because you could lock down PowerShell, but that's going
Yeah.
to stop some of your infrastructure operations really fast. So, yeah, there's no patch for it. So awareness is really all we have, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, just as an example here, this is one of the early examples of ClickFix. It's very doesn't look particularly malicious, right? You have just like a couple of steps. It has already copied something onto your clipboard that it needs to run. Um, and then you can see kind of one of the keys to this technique is when you paste into the run dialog there, like, it just has some random flavor text that looks
Mhm.
official, right? Just, I'm not a robot, and it's got some captcha junk in there. So it looks even more legitimate because, the end of the string is just something innocuous, but obviously before then there's, all sorts of PowerShell that it's running.
Okay. So was it that issue with the Discord server that really kind of elevated this for you? This is like a
No,
personal
it's just
technique.
showed up in the news a couple of times lately, and it really seems like it's gaining steam to me. So I think it's not going away. It's not a fad. It's something that we're going to have. Hopefully, it shows up in our training, our cybersecurity training for next year, because it's really something that's catching on.
All right. Thanks for bringing this up. All right. We like talking about new things. So we have a new scanner. we're not deprecating the scanners we have. So Joe, do you want to tell folks what we've added into the product?
Yeah, so BigFix inventory, anybody who uses it, or well, maybe last week anyway, anybody who used it a week or more ago has used the BigFix inventory scan process, which is you send an action out to an endpoint and it runs a big scan and then it immediately uploads the results. It takes like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes to run. We now don't do that anymore. We have a BigFix scanner service. It's for more than just inventory, but it's, to begin with, an inventory service. It now does continuous scanning. You can configure all sorts of performance parameters with it to make it scan more or less. But so instead of doing that one big 20-minute scan at 100% CPU, we just run 2% CPU all the time and take what we can get, however long that takes to refresh.
Well, and I do want to correct that because we're not deprecating the existing scanner. So what my understanding from talking to the engineering team is that the customer can decide if they want to use the classic or the new one. And I can see maybe some scenarios where the customer might choose one over the other. I mean, obviously the continuous scanner, it's always running, so you don't have to wait for the next scan to see the latest update, which is great. But in certain environments where maybe there's some areas of the disk that we don't want to scan, that customer might want to keep the classic method in place.
Yeah, correct. It's we're not getting rid of the old scanner.
Right.
Not for a while. That method will still be there. This one has all sorts. The new method has all sorts of advantages. I'm not going to go into all of them, but the one I really care about is that we now store everything, like all of this data for packages and files and all that stuff for inventory. We now store it locally on the client in a little SQLite database. And that means we can get to it in any way that you could get to a SQLite database, one of which is through relevance. So I have personally seen many people blow up their BigFix instances by trying to use the installed Windows applications property. Like, that thing is massive. It returns every application in a single property, and it's useful data. People want to use it, but it's just too big and doesn't work. This is the same data, more data really. It's not just the same, it's expanded. Only now you can get to it through relevance and not like blow up your infrastructure by accessing too much data or creating a relevance statement that just like takes too long to process, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's exciting. And my understanding is this scanner is going to be used in other parts of BigFix. So I think we're going to see the benefits of this for many more things in addition to inventory, like you're sort of hinting at. So
yeah, we're officially going to have a whole bunch of products rely on this. It deduplicates the resources we have to spend on all that stuff because it's just one scanner with data used in many places. And I hope that our customers and our services team will have all sorts of other integrations that we come up with this data, because it's just available, it's got an API, it's stable. We look forward to seeing what people come up with it. Go wild.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So congratulations to the inventory team. I know this was a big release for you guys, so really happy to see it and happy for our customers to get it. So I think that's it for this month, unless you had anything else, Joe.
It's everything.
All right. Well, if you're still with us, thanks for joining. We'll see you next month.